Hello. I am here today with two people, one very well known within the TLC, one lesser known, but somewhat known, and somewhat coming out of the lurk, I suppose, with this particular video, this particular conversation. And I was telling Nick and John that I've seen John in the comments on three or four different live streams, three or four different more, I think more than that, to be honest. But every time John chimed in, it was like, oh man, he's got some good stuff to share here. And then I just found out 10 minutes ago from John that Nick, you were in his Midwestuary group, so you have inside knowledge on this gentleman. So I appreciate you being part of this experience.
Yeah. Yeah. John and I were in the same estuary group at Midwestuary, which was a pretty loaded group. It
It was.
was a lot of fun. And I was so overstimulated that weekend. Um, I'm probably still recovering from the amount of like human connectivity stimulation. But it afforded like all these, even if they were tiny little connections. And then if people like happen to still be around in the comment world, or online, it's just like, well, like let's dive a little deeper. Let's get you randoed. And then something just felt natural about Neal and I both just like just hopping in. So uh if you could, yeah, John, I mean, from here, like, just take it away. What is it that we um need to know? Let me say one thing in the beginning, which is like I do love, like, John, when you have been on, and in a lot of like your commentary, you'll reference so often your days as running your pizza shop that has since sold. But I love that as just like as the canvas you always paint with. And so I'm putting that out now because I want to give you at some point an opportunity to like just dive further into um that life you lived, and everything you learned from it. And even you've mentioned working with a whole younger generation and not seeing the black cloud of hopelessness that often gets maybe portrayed online. So you don't start out with that, but I just want to put it out there now as a bookmark to make sure we get back to it at some point.
Yep. All right. Sounds good. Well, yeah, I owned a pizza shop for 25 years. That was something I did for started when I was 23. Um, but I guess maybe I'll go back a little bit because my journey has had many chapters, different different chapters. But I was born the eighth child of my parents, Catholic family. So my parents were very faithful in that regard. They always said, um, if the Lord's going to give us a lot of kids, He'll give us the resources to take care of them,
Mm-hmm.
and that came true in their lives. So, um, but our family was great. It was nobody ever fought. It was very everybody took care of each other. Very, I mean, great great upbringing. My parents are still around, 92 and 94. So they were kind of older when I was born. So that was different than my friends at the time. But I grew up. I was a really small child. I was the smallest kid in my class for probably about 8 years. That I think that shaped me as a person. Um, probably in good and bad ways, but ultimately for the good. Uh, and I think
How old were your folks when you were born?
I think I think my dad was 39 and my
Okay.
mom was 41,
Okay.
and they had my oldest sister is 16 years older than me. So she helped raise me practically. I mean, she
Yeah.
was a teenager when I was a baby. So,
Yep.
and I was an uncle when I was 8.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty cool. And there was always little kids around, and I got to be the cool uncle. And
Yeah.
a lot of nephews and nieces running around. It was fun.
Were
Um,
you a good kid?
or straight laced or bad
Yeah, I
influence?
was pretty good. I was a good kid. I was a real good kid. I mean, my parents, by the time I was in high school, they were pretty well cooked. But I was a good kid. I mean, I would stay out late and stuff, but I wasn't out doing anything troublesome. Yeah. So I went to Catholic school, first through eighth grade, and I'd say overall that's a good experience. And Was an altar boy, did all that, but I would say my faith wasn't very meaningful to me at the time. It was mostly duty kind of thing. Although I'm glad it went that way because looking back, there's a lot of meaningful experiences, you know. But I came to faith, I would say, in high school. I went to Young Life, if you're familiar with that. Kind of a it's a kind of a parachurch organization, does outreach to high school kids, just shares the gospel with them, and went to a camp. And I always knew, like my parents were very strong faith people, and I always knew, well, when I get older, I'll do that too, But then I realized in high school, well, I can do that now. So I made a decision, and then uh, stuck with Young Life. Young Life was a great experience for me because I met a bunch of people, and I got into a good friend group, some good influences. Started going to Bible study. Still friends with tons of those people now. And my high school, my leader, we actually just decided kind of a later in life throwback where we were trying to decide where to go to church. And we just went to the church they go to because with some people we knew. And so my church journey is a whole other conversation. But so I had a hard time after that, though, going to the Catholic Church. So I ended up not going back to the Catholic Church, and I went to a local Christian college a couple years, and it was a friends college. So it was a Quaker, friends church. So I started going there.
Can I
Um,
dig into that a little bit? So,
yeah.
uh, what what was your? I guess I'm curious. Like, were your siblings doing similar things, kind of
Oh,
going their own ways? And then what was your parents' take on that as that was happening?
yeah, they were. I don't really think my oldest sister goes to church. I'm not really sure about the rest of my siblings as far as church goes. Now, I mean, some of them are believers, some of them, I don't know. I think in a general sense, yeah. How meaningful is it in their life? I don't know. But that was troublesome for my parents. And for a lot of years, my dad and I would talk. He would want me to come back, still does. Uh, and There's been some times I've gone back kind of just for him, but I don't have a animosity toward the church at all. Though there were some, the scandal touched our parish for the church pretty robustly, I would say. I knew people and those things happen, but that wasn't really a factor in my story. But yeah, but that didn't really become a stumbling block between my parents and I. It was just conversation, you know. Although it probably is a profound desire of my dad's and my mom's for me to return. But um, so then let's see, go through. I guess I went to school for a couple of years and was studying Christian ministry or business. Couldn't figure it out really. And all that time I had worked at a local pizza shop. And the guy I worked for, he would say, "Hey, you ever think about owning your own business?" No, I thought had to have a ton of money for that or something. I don't know. I just didn't think about it seriously. He kind of encouraged me to think about it. And so I ended up leaving school and looked for a pizza shop. And I met a girl, which was pretty cool. Uh, it's actually kind of a funny story. We were both in a wedding party and they totally set us up, but we had no idea. So, we're both in this big wedding party. I think there was nine groomsmen and nine, bridesmaids. And when they went to do like the bridal dance, they said instead of everybody dancing with the couple that you may have walked down the aisle with, just dance with their significant other. And of course, the bride and groom knew that everyone was there with somebody
Except
except
for
for
you two.
me and Melinda. Right. So we're out there on the literally on the dance floor, and it's like, I think we've been set up. So that we met, and then the, the rest is history, as they say. And she's a fantastic woman. But so we met then, and then in 1996 was a crazy year for us. Uh, we bought the pizza shop together in February, and I moved out of my parents' house for the first time in March to what became our apartment. We got married in May, and then we moved in together in the apartment, and then we ran the pizza shop together for the first 5 years of
Wow.
our
So
marriage.
so
It was pretty crazy.
no, that's amazing. I mean, you basically went through that in about 10 seconds, but it's like I'm curious from meeting your wife to, getting married to deciding, okay, we're gonna put both of our futures into the same pie.
Yeah, well, it's kind of wacky. My parents were pretty involved in the pre-marriage program at the Catholic church they went to. In fact, my dad wrote the program that they used there. I
Hmm.
helped edit it when I was like 19. And her parents, her dad's a pastor, and he did pre-marriage counseling as well at that church. It was a Protestant church, came out of the Jesus movement in the 70s. They had a coffee house and
Hmm.
church ministry.
Was it a funny first meeting of both your parents?
Uh it was pretty chill. I think my parents, it was their eighth kid getting married. They've seen just about everything.
Yeah.
They get along good though. They really do. Um,
That's cool.
but it was interesting because my wife and I we dated for a while. I think we dated for 6 months, and then we got engaged, and then we were going to wait a year to get married. And weirdly, both of our sets of parents said, "You guys probably shouldn't wait a year. You're not you're not going to make it." So so uh, we ended up getting married after we were engaged for 7 months. So we knew each other for 13 months, got married. But it's pretty unusual that both sets of parents who do marriage counseling tell you to get married sooner.
That's
Yeah.
a really good sign. I mean,
Yeah.
it goes to show that you guys had a strong basis.
And
Yeah.
Pa Passed the smell test.
Yep.
how old were you and your wife when you got married?
I was 23, she was 24.
Wow. Like so far your story, it sounds like it's out of another time and another world almost.
It
It
really
really
is.
does.
It's crazy. I mean, uh I don't know. It's funny because when you're in those moments, it just feels like, yeah, this is what we're doing now. We're doing this, we're
Yeah.
doing that, and we're going to do this. Yeah, okay. And then you look back and you're like, holy moly. I have 3 kids now, and I think, my oldest is 24, and I'm like, man, if she told me she was buying a business and all those things, I'd be like, wow, that would just really blow my hair back. But um, I don't know, we did it, and
Wow.
so a lot of people say, I don't know if I could work with my spouse, man. I don't know, and I've often thought that too, because we're different. We're different enough. But I think for us, it was kind of lucky in a sense that we started our marriage with the business. And so we had to it wasn't like we were married for a long time, then we bought a business, and then you have to establish all these new roles. We had kind of like came with the territory. So we figured out ways to work together, and you know, uh, I had different roles at the shop than I did at home because like it was my thing. I'm more of the creative engine, and I would figure out the recipes and figure out how to make things. But my wife is super great at uh, the more repeatable processes. So she would make sure things got made the same way every time, and then she would eventually train the people and stuff. Um, but then, of course, we had kids, and about 5 years in, had our first kid. And so it was important for me to have her home. It was important for her too. She actually had a college degree. I didn't actually graduate with a degree. So it was kind of like, how should we do this? But ultimately, I let her decide, because I didn't want to pressure her. But she decided, let's just build the pizza shop up to where it can support us. And if we get there, then I can be home with the kids, and we can kind of juggle it that way. And so that worked pretty well. There was a time when the kids were young. I changed the hours at the pizza shop. I just decided I'm missing too much at home. So we opened the shop at 4 Monday through Thursday. And so we lose some hours, but those were kind of the least profitable hours anyway. So I sacrificed a little income there, but spend time with the kids while they're little. So uh, that's kind of how the family life developed there. And then we had 3 kids, and eventually they all worked at the shop before we sold it. That was a pretty great experience.
That's something that I have strong opinions about actually.
Yeah.
The we don't have to necessarily talk about this right now, but I've thought a lot about the lack of people are always against child labor. I was a referee for soccer at 11, or 12, either 11 or 12. I was
Hey,
refereeing
that can
games
be
and
a tough gig, man.
getting yelled at by parents, and I looked
Yeah.
younger than 11 or 12, man. I was refereeing like 4 or 5 year olds, and but like, and then I worked in high school and a little bit, and then in college too. But anyway, like uh, eventually, when it's prudent, you could talk about your thoughts on having your kids help with the business and stuff, because I think that's great.
Yeah, it was great. It was really wonderful. It was good. And, like they always say, kids, they more is caught than taught. You can say whatever, but um, they see what you're doing more than what you say. But um, so let's see. So the shop. So then, the shop is crazy. Uh, Pizza shops are pretty much barely contained chaos. Like when it gets really, really going, and as things ramp up, I mean, there's so much stuff happening. And then COVID was just crazy. I mean, it was so hard during COVID. And that's a whole conversation unto itself. But um, the interesting thing about the shop, it was really successful. And locally, like everybody, it was called Zepp's Pizza. That's my last name. So it's no longer around. But everybody knows us by that. It was very successful. But the funny thing is uh, my personality is literally the opposite of owning a pizza shop. Like it's so funny. Like if you at one point I got really into this. If you take a Myers-Briggs or a Big Five personality or a disc profile or any of those personality profiles, especially Myers-Briggs, if you look at my personality, it says number one don't for your personality type is restaurant ownership. It literally says do
Wow.
whatever you do not do this. It's hilarious.
And
And so,
why is that? Like
well,
what?
because it's so chaotic. If I was like, I think Myers-Briggs, I'm like an INTP, which is like a introverted, intuitive thinking, perceiving type person. Obviously, TLC like type person. Um, but chaos is bad for people like that. A lot of personal interaction, a lot of, you're dealing with customers, you're dealing with employees, suppliers, it's a lot of person, and you're really introverted. Um, so I always felt that tension. There was a lot of internal tension for me, like, because it's not a good fit. And I went back and forth many times about, why am I doing this? And I never really did reconcile that, I don't think, if there is a way to even do that. But you have to do what you have to do. Like I knew how to make money doing this. I had a family to support. You do what you got to do. You got to man up, in a way. Um, But we had some real trouble at one point. I had an employee steal tons of money, and I didn't realize it at first, and it nearly bankrupted us. But we made it through. Um, I also I almost forgot about this, but I bought a second pizza shop 3 years in. So I was 26 and I bought a second shop, and that was super hard. And I had that one for about 10 months and we ended up selling it because it was too much. I couldn't hack that. Uh, and the main reason I sold it is because my wife and I started yelling at each other. I mean, it was super tense. And I just remember the only time we've ever, I remember very vividly, she was at the top of the stairs. I was at the bottom. I'm just like shouting at her up the stairs and she's yelling back. I'm like, this can't continue. And I realized it's like I gotta just sell this shop, the second shop, and just take a loss no matter what, because I want to stay married.
Hmm.
And so that's what I did. And then
Well,
we kind of redoubled our efforts at the main shop and got it back on its feet and everything. That was really early on. Before we had kids, you know.
what was during that time, during that hard time, what was the relationship of you and your wife with church, with your faith? Like, what was, how were you, practicing your faith at that time?
Well, one thing we always did at the shop is we were closed on Sunday. I just was closed on Sunday, even though it's a decent pizza day. I'm like, I'm not
Hmm.
doing that. We're gonna. So we would always go to church, and but we really we struggled to have a good community to really connect, and that was probably our fault. We probably didn't put the effort in we could have. Um, so we're always kind of, I guess, a little bit on the outs of church, on a little bit of outsiders um, at that time, right? Um, and then let's see, try to keep it somewhat cohesive
I have a
timeline
I have
wise.
a question about
Yeah.
how large population wise is the community that your shop is in?
We're like a suburb, about 17,000 residents.
Okay, because I
So,
live in a small town of about 15,000. It's not exactly a suburb, but it's close to several metropolitan areas that it probably acts like one. But um, it's an old town. It wasn't added recently. It's been around for a while. First town named after Abraham Lincoln.
oh, that's cool.
While he was still alive, there's a spot in the town that has sculpture statue of a watermelon. It's the spot where he christened the town with watermelon juice. So
That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
there's Lincoln lore all up and down in my whole town. But I
That's
bring
pretty
that up
neat.
because within my town, the at this point, some of the only things keeping it, um, or I don't want to say only, some of the most important things keeping it together,
Cohesive? Yeah.
cohesive as a particular place, are the small like Sorrento's Pizza, Gazzardo's Restaurant, and the coffee shop downtown. These are a few. And so my question, John, is I didn't know what that was like in your town. If you ever felt that, like, as you get into this thing, if you had moments where you're like wondering, well, what your place is in the town, in the community, beyond just raking in some cash to pay the bills and to raise your family and generate some income. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I didn't really think about that until way later, probably like the last 5 years I had the shop. Um, and part of that was because of COVID, because COVID was really hard. I mean, it was one of the most stressful times we ever had the shop. Even more than
What
when.
about it specifically? I'm not trying to ask too obvious a question, but
That's
as
cool.
a business owner um, of a pizza shop where there's probably a lot of business available still in that time, what particular are your main stressors?
Well, during COVID, the first thing was, of course, we didn't know how contagious it was, but everybody was saying it could live on surfaces. So that my first thought was, uh, how am I going to keep my waiting area clean so that people don't get COVID from coming in? And I couldn't come up with an answer. So I decided we're just going to do curbside for every pickup order. And that worked out because the local college is closed. And I had two guys that went off to college that were employees that had graduated, and they came home and I'm like, hey, you guys want to come back? And they're like, yeah, we don't have anything to do. So they were running out the cars. Um, and then the governor, it was like every couple of days, the governor would say, we're not sure if we're going to close restaurants. And we didn't know if that meant us too. So literally I'm ordering, 3-4 grand worth of food
Hmm.
that's going to come in tomorrow. And if he could close us tomorrow. And so, I'm talking with my manager and we're trying to decide, should we order this or should we wait? Oh, the press conference is coming on at 10 and we have to order by 2. So there's a 4-hour window there. We can decide how much to order. I mean, it's super, super stressful. And it turned out he never closed the pizza shops, but he did close the restaurants.
Mm.
So all the sit down restaurants closed and our sales went up 40%,
Yeah.
like immediately. And then that was its own difficulty.
Yep.
And, um, but it was at that time, after that, somebody opened a local Facebook group it was called Stark County. That's the county we're in, Stark County, takeout. And then people are just posting things on. We got pizza at this place. It was really great. We got food there. It was so great. And people just were raving about our food. And so then we gained like a huge market share from that because we were ready and we were doing curbside. So during that time, there's a lot of people, mass became kind of a political issue almost. But the way we did it, everybody was happy because if you
Right.
don't, you could be in your car and don't wear a mask. We don't care. But we're
Hmm.
going to bring it out to you. Like you're not coming in. So we kind of split the difference there, I feel like. So after that, I feel like we became much more of a community staple. But weirdly, I had already decided to sell the shop before that.
Hmm.
Um, so I had come to a decision. Um, I don't know when. I don't know. So let me think. Okay, it was sometime in 2018, early 2018. I was thinking I either need to, because we needed to make more money for the family. We just see our kids' college is looming. I want to help out, do some things with the kids, and so I need to make more money. So I was either going to buy another shop again. I think I would have done it better this time, or I'm going to do something else entirely. And I had a friend from high school who he opened a business around the same time I did, and he was a financial advisor, and he'd been trying to get me to come over there for years because we'd have conversations, and he would say, you know, I talk to other people, they don't know what I'm talking about. You always know what I'm talking about. They're like, you understand what I'm trying to do. And so eventually I decided I'm going to try that. So I'm working, I'm like 49 and I'm working basically two full-time jobs. So starting in 2018, I, uh, I start working for him. So I work for him during the day. I come to shop at night. Um, not full time, but probably 60 some hours. Did that for a couple years, then COVID. Well, so no financial advisor clients are coming in. So I'd work there till noon and then I'd go and work at the shop till 8 or 10 at night. It was brutal. It was, and I'm not 20 anymore at this point. I'm 50. So did that. There was one period where I worked like 75 hours for 14 months in a row. It was rough. I had Sunday off though, thank God, literally. And
I mean that gives me a renewed appreciation of the Sabbath there. Yeah.
Yeah.
oh yeah, I mean it kept my marriage together. I mean, just from a practical standpoint, I saw my kids, I saw my wife,
Hmm.
I saw anybody in the community. We would we had a day of the week we could plan things, and people that knew us knew, oh hey, you guys want to get together? How about Sunday? They knew we were available on Sunday.
Hmm.
And So eventually I sold the shop, and it was really interesting because it was a tough decision. I mean, and I wish I had perfect closure on it, because I do look back and think in terms of stuff like you're saying, Nick, like we were part of the community, and now that's kind of gone, but at the same time, like it was pretty unsustainable for me in many ways. And um, it was interesting when I sold the shop, people that knew me really well said, "Congratulations, man." And people that didn't know me very well were like, "Oh man, we're so sad to hear you sold the shop," you know, because the people that knew me knew the struggle that it was, uh, and and that it was not a great fit for me. It's weird to say you did something for 25 years that was not a good fit for you, and I don't know how to even feel about that. I gotta be honest. It's um, I look back and uh, there's tons and tons of memories, but as time goes on, you forget the total insanity. Like I don't think if you've never worked food service or never been in a busy kitchen at a restaurant, I don't think you can really grasp the insanity, the minute to minute insanity. Like I need that in 30 seconds. Like, and like, but there's like a brotherhood about it. And I was so glad that I got to experience it, especially with my older son, who, he was one of the only employees I ever had that was better than me
Hmm.
at stuff. He could just do it better. It's a weird thing in Northeast Ohio. We sell chicken, like roasted chicken and potato wedges alongside of pizza. A lot of pizza shops around here do that. It's weird. It's a weird kind of quirk of the area. And he would run the chicken fryers. There were three of them, and he could do it by himself. Nobody else could do that, not even me. And he was like 18. He was a beast, man.
Wow.
And now he's a mechanic, so he's still working hard. And
Yeah, I mean,
but
if I can just add to that because I worked food service. It was my first job. I worked at a Culver's for a
oh
year
yeah,
and a half here in the Midwest. And then out in California, I worked at a. It was the strangest combination of things. It was like a fusion of traditional Ethiopian cuisine, and it was a juice bar
what what?
and a salad bar as well. Yeah, it was wild. It was very poorly ran. They got
Mhm.
they went bankrupt,
Ah,
and I can understand why. But um, more so when I was 16 because it was a better run. It was a franchise, so that they know what they're doing. Like whenever people talk about the flow state, the
yeah,
most in the zone I've ever been is during a rush food service. Like, and some people can't handle it. Like I had a roommate in
yep,
college who worked at Chipotle, and he was just like, I don't know how I can't do it. I don't know how people do it. I can't do it.
yep.
Um, yeah, yeah, and so yeah, just to add to that, I mean, there's I don't know if nostalgia is the right word, but like I'm like, man, just like timeless. You're in a timeless
Yeah,
zone. You look
absolutely.
you look up and it's the rush is over and it's time to go. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I had that experience so many times. It's like Vervaeke talk about that being in a flow state, or um, even procedural knowledge. I mean, like there would be times people would say, "Well, show me how to do that," and you can't. You can't do it. Like, trust me, you can't. You can't do it. And and when I was going to sell the shop, there's these two guys that bought it from me, and they would watch me, and like, well, what are you doing there? What are you doing there? I'm like, I just had a way of a pizza would come out and poke a bubble or something, and I'd flip it around and turn it, put it in the box, cut it, just it just flows. It's just
Yeah.
going. And it's hard to explain. Or like tossing dough, like how do you do this? It's hard to describe. You have to
Mhm.
just and there's a lot of that goes on, I think, in kitchens, like the procedural knowledge and stuff, but the experience too of the like brotherhood. Like you make it through some insane, like you don't even know how you're going to do it. I can't even tell you how many times. I guess that's a really big lesson that I learned was there'd be times where we're like, normally we'd have 12 crew members or something on a Friday, and we'd have four or something. We're like, this is impossible. There's no way we can do this. And then somehow we do it. And it actually would go decent.
Mm-hmm.
And like you could stack up probably 300 of those examples where there's no way we can do this, but we're going to do it. We just do it. And then you do it. And then somehow it comes together. There's just something about, I think nowadays we think uh, we think too lowly of our ability to just
Yeah.
suck it up and go
Rise
for
to
it.
the occasion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean,
The soft bigotry of low expectations. Yeah. Something
yeah, I
like
like
that.
that. That's right. And it was fun to have teenagers experience that, especially Gen Z, where, you know, they'd be when they start, they would be anxious about taking a phone call because they don't nobody talks on the phone anymore. You have to kind of coach them through a little bit, but then they start doing it and then they get into it and then eventually they're the guys that are like sprinting back and forth and doing things and calling out orders to their friends like, hey, I need this, do that, get this. You can see them just rise up. One phenomenon I saw a lot is when a guy was the new guy and he'd be real hesitant and you hire another new guy. Now he's not the new guy. And I'd be like, hey man, why don't you show him how to do that? He's like, oh, okay, well let me show you how to do that, man. And then you just see him go whoop,
Mm-hmm.
whoop, just level up a little bit. That was fun. That was great. Um, but I don't know, my story's getting kind of disjointed. But sold the shop, been about 2 years, almost to the day. I think I sold it November 1st, 23. And two guys bought it, two brothers that had run pizza shops for like 10 years, and they struggled uh, for about a year, and they sold to another guy, and he made it about 6 months, and then hung it up. But one of the reasons they struggled so much is because when I decided um, to sell the shop back in like 2018 and 2017, it needed some work. It needed some more equipment. It needed some different things. I could have streamlined things and eliminated some equipment maybe if I streamlined it. But I had one of my core beliefs was quality first, efficiency second. That's what you look for in a small local business, right? You want consistency, but you want quality. And so some of our systems were kind of clunky, but they had to be to maintain the quality. If you streamline it too much, you end up with just low quality product like a chain.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a struggle for me, and I knew that, and I think that's probably what made the business fail ultimately because I was willing to trade really hard work for the quality, and I don't think the people that bought from me were. Um,
Yeah.
but
You so uh pizza pizza in America has a very unique pizza in America has a very unique place. I mean, you mentioned like restaurants close, pizza shops are open. Um, but also like even think like pizza's the it's the it might be the one remaining thing that every town can have their own thing and it's going to be a unique thing and it's I mean you have certain chain pizza places but in general there's still a cultural there's still a small latent cultural aversion to chain pizza. I mean people like
yeah,
their local pizza whereas like burgers and all this stuff, it's like pizza's like the last bulwark, here. Even think like um, Barstool's One Bite app, where it's like
Right.
that's to rate local pizza shops. And so I've heard you mention that you tried to repeat your recipe in a second shop with a different
Yeah.
oven and had a different taste. And so
Yeah.
you probably have a unique perspective on whatever that phenomenon I'm describing, first of all, and then second of all, the that whatever that thing is that I mean, you could sort of chemically deconstruct why it's not the same flavor and whatever. But I think there's to combine those two, or to combine the phenomenon and then your reality of not being able to repeat exactly the flavor profile with a different oven. There's a, there's something about local pizza shops in America where it's like it's the the cuisine or the thing itself is tied to the place still in a unique way, and so you get all these different variations of the same thing.
Yeah, that's hyper true. I mean, I can even tell you in my local town, most of the pizza shops use provolone cheese. Okay, but a lot of probably countrywide mozzarella is more popular. In a little town south of us, Dover, New Philly, it's like even much smaller town. That area, a lot of pizza shops use cheddar or they use a cheddar blend. If you go further south, there's something called Ohio Valley pizza. Okay, and what they do is they cook like a sheet pizza. They cook it in the oven with just maybe some toppings or maybe just sauce. And they take it out and they sprinkle, they'll put pepperoni on it and put shredded cheese on it, and then that's it. They put it in the box and serve it to you. So the cheese is very a little bit melted, but not really. And it was like one place started doing that down there and people liked it, and then another place did it, another place did it. So now it kind of has a name. I mean, if you don't live in this area, you probably never hear Ohio Valley pizza, but it's a style, you
Hmm.
know? And there's Chicago style, of course, Chicago deep dish, and there's New York style, which is kind of a chewier crust. And I could go into all the different ways you get that, but it's really it's really interesting. It's like a fingerprint for your area. And there's a local chain around here where they cook it and they put slices of pizza or slices of cheese on the pizza after they make it, and they put it back in the oven just to melt that cheese. So it's just like melted cheese on it. And then that's like a Canton, Ohio. That's a Canton staple. Uh, and it was really interesting to me the uh, first time one of the kids came in to work for me and said, "Oh yeah, I grew up on your pizza," and I was like, "Whoa,
Hmm.
that was quite a thing to hear," you know. And I thought about it and went, "Yeah, we've kind of been making the same pizza for 15, 20 years. This kid grew up on our pizza." And then we actually had some employees who we employed their parents. That was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's two couples that met each other at the pizza shop and they got married. They're still married.
That's cool.
I think between them they had like 7 kids. So
Wow.
pretty cool. A couple doctors worked for me, bunch of nurses, probably about at least 5 pastors uh, that worked for me over the years. And it was cool because it was cool to be kind of like a waypoint for some people too, where, I'd have a friend who was out of work or something, or a couple of them were teachers getting started as a teacher and they needed to make some extra money in the summer. They could deliver pizza for me or something. And that was cool.
Yeah, it's like it's it's a wonderful life, but instead of banking, it's a pizza shop and it's in Ohio. like
Yeah.
like really, I mean, I don't think I'm painting your story too nostalgic. Neal, I don't know if you're hearing the same. It's really a really cool
It's
story to
pretty
hear.
cool. I mean, I had lots of, as you can imagine, anybody, even TLC adjacent, you can imagine the conversations that can come up in you're working late with somebody and teenager and something comes up. Actually,
Mhm.
the last couple of years, the one guy, he goes, "Hey, John, have you ever heard of Jordan Peterson?" Yeah, I have. And then we'd have a conversation, and he's a great guy. He's going to OSU right now. But
Nice.
yeah, I mean, many conversations over the years, and you get to know people. My recent manager, he worked for me almost 10 years. I mean, we talk about faith all the time, and um, we had a lot in common. But we still talk and stuff. I still talk to a number of the employees, but I
That's
had a
good.
friend who was he was in the military, and um, he got out of the military after about 9 years, I think, and didn't go well. He was injured and struggling a little bit, and hadn't worked for a while. And my delivery driver quit, so I called him up out of the blue, and he came and worked for me for like 4 or 5 years. He said that was super meaningful. He didn't tell me till years later, but he was in a pretty dark place, and I was like, "Well, cool, man."
Hmm.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stories like I've probably forgotten more stories than I can even remember. Usually I'll get together with some people who worked at the shop for a while and we'll reminisce, you know. And there's so many stories I've forgotten.
It it reminds me of Paul the Apostle a little bit because PVK sometimes talks about being a pastor. How much control does he have over the
It's true.
decisions and the destinies of the people who come through his doors and sit down in those pews? And in PVK's own words, they hear
That's
what
right.
they want to hear, and that's it. And I think about the story that you're telling, which is like you're Jesus smuggling all over the place. You're
Yeah.
instilling work values. What would you say? Five pastors,
Yeah.
marriages, kids. Yeah,
Yeah. I'd be trying to colonize them a little bit. Yeah, definitely. In fact, I just talked to a woman. I have a little meeting group. Actually, we're reading Chesterton, which I'm sure Nick will be happy about. We're
Nice.
reading Everlasting Man.
Nice.
And uh there's one woman, local woman that I knew years and years ago. And I was just telling the guys like 2, 3 months ago, like I can't find my Mere Christianity. I don't know. I must have given it away. I've done that before. I've given like 3 or 4 of them away. And I met her. She goes, "You remember when you gave me Mere Christianity?" I'm like, "I gave that to you?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, okay." That was pretty cool. Like I had forgotten who I gave it to, and then God just kind of reminded me, "Hey, now you gave it to her." Uh, so that's cool. But so the interesting thing is, I guess, to kind of not to move on from the pizza shop, but to kind of say where I am now is it's an odd place. Like I felt like I was really stressed out at the shop. Like it was really, you can imagine when you're doing something. I mean, I was good at it because I had done it for so long, right? But it really wasn't my thing in a lot of ways. Like I loved making I was really passionate about making good food. Like every pizza I wanted to send out. I mean, I was almost obsessed about it looking right, you know. Um, but I was really chill with employees, probably more than I should have been, more chill than I should have been. But so I don't want to make it sound like I was a tyrant or that I was like, hey, make sure you do it like this. 'Cause I was probably the opposite of that. But um, it was kind of weighing on me. And now that I've been out for a couple years, and I almost have a completely different disposition. The stress was really weighing on me. And in some ways, I try not to feel like I failed because it wasn't a failure. It was very successful, you know. But it now it's gone, you know. But I'm in a much better place, um, and I'm definitely in a job where it's more suited to my personality. And I've helped out a lot of people already just getting their finances in order and stuff like that. Um, so I like that. Uh, but I kind of feel like in between something like the pizza shop I did, and that really gave me a lot of skills internally that I needed. Uh, Growing up like the small kid, getting picked on a little bit and stuff. in school. But then I've often said when I'm talking to people about Gen Z or just young people in general, it doesn't have to be you just need some wins, you know? You need some wins to get your confidence up. And you need to know you can do hard things and that it won't destroy you. And so I get to the point where I'm thinking, um, whatever whatever's next, I don't even know what that is. If it's hard, okay. Uh, but I'm kind of in
Hmm.
I don't feel like I'm in a holding pattern, but I'm more of like in a cocoon or something. And that's kind of what TLC has been
Yeah, I was gonna
for
say,
me a lot.
speaking of liminal spaces,
Right.
where does the little corner of the internet come in? Where does Jordan Peterson like on your COVID pizza shop timeline?
Yeah, I think I probably have the traditional Peterson, Paul, Vervaeke, Peugeot pipeline kind of a story. Saw Peterson was really interested, but was always like, I don't think this guy's a Christian. Then I saw Paul. I'm like, ah, cool, a pastor. He's talking about Jordan Peterson, and I felt like maybe I could trust him. So started listening to Paul, and then found Waking from the Meaning Crisis. That just blew my mind, and it kind of reawakened a little bit of uh, philosophical interest that I had. It was somewhat had gone latent. I did a lot of C.S. Lewis in high school and when I was younger, and as I had the shop, I would read. You know, I had to be the weirdest pizza shop owner you've ever met. Yeah, being in the back stuff, talking about spiritual or philosophical things. But sometimes I'd hire some kid who was really smart or was into stuff at school, and we'd have these conversations over pizza. It was weird, but fun. But yeah, and then I just kind of started lurking around the corner, and then was really feeling like I wanted to get more involved. And then went to Midwestern, and I pitched in with Chad at the cookout. I volunteered to do some of that because I figured, food, I can do that. So I helped. Chad was gonna have to cook a bunch of stuff. I'm like, no, I'll cook it, man. You can hang out with people, and that was cool. Um, got to meet Neal there because he was cooking, and Laura, she was a girl from Minneapolis area. Anyway, met some other people, and Midwestern was just it was great. Like you said, it was pretty overwhelming. I've been to a lot of conferences and things over the years, even some really big church conferences. Um, but it really wasn't like that. Nothing was like that. It was so two-tiered, so like high-minded but personal. I just love that.
Hmm.
I loved it. But yeah, I don't know. I think I kind of went off track from your question about the two ovens and things. I
Oh no,
definitely,
no, it was just I think my latest one was just about TLC in general, but it would just the algorithm gotcha.
yeah,
Basically, is what it sounds like. Yeah.
yeah, pretty much. And then, it gets you to a certain point, and then you go out and seek people. And it's a really interesting, I think TLC is a really interesting space. And we talked about this at our estuary on Sunday a little bit, where, you know, what's the antidote to the fragmented scenario we find ourselves in? And you got to find people you trust. You got to find people you that will speak to you and uh, break your frame a little bit, see things from a little bit different angle, but you trust them for some reason, you know. And there's something about TLC where that's how I feel a lot. Um,
That's a really interesting question because I feel the same way that there's so many people that I've met that I have very quickly and implicitly trusted. And I'm not really that trusting of a person.
right.
and when I described, so I talked to a friend of mine from fraternity, and he's actually probably my closest friend, and we still talk occasionally from my fraternity in college. And I mentioned that, my best friend is from this space. It's Chad, and he's 12 years sober, and my fraternity friend was kind of concerned for me. He's like, well, how well do you know this guy? And like,
Yeah.
how, do you know you can trust him? And like all this stuff, right? And I'm like, I understand his legitimate concern because I met my best friend on the internet. Like,
Right?
and I've only known him 2 years, and he's 12 years sober. Like
He's like,
who are
wait, so
these people?
this guy who wears a luchador mask and like does goofy videos?
The big white beard and plays guitar. Yep, yep. That's great. Yeah,
But
well,
for
it's
Yeah,
some
funny
reason,
because
yeah.
I mean, I met Bill, the guy that I drove to Chicago 6 hours with Bill. We talked on Discord for 45 minutes or something. Like he seems like a good guy. And now he's coming to our estuary. He's great. Uh, I don't know. There's something about it. There's something about. I think that somehow is the antidote to the fragmentation. I don't know. I think there's a lot of conversation about how we duplicate it or where we go from here, but uh, I have no idea. But I mean, I just appreciate the people in the TLC. Like you guys, I like watching channel. Like, oh, Neal, that's got something cool. Nick's on. There's something about it. I mean, even at Midwestern, it was such a bizarre thing to be. I mean, I'm naturally introverted, and I just sit down at a table and start talking to people, and then like it's real conversation, like immediately. I sat down, and it was with Gray Hamilton and a guy named Joseph, and it was like we just start chatting. Great conversation, real deep, meaningful. That doesn't happen in the everyday life.
What is it that separates us? Like, because I hear you. I mean, it. I don't know if I think a lot about how to reach normal people, and I also think about it in relation to my own desire. It's like maybe it's okay that they're just having normal lives, doing normal things in a normal way, and I should just let them be. Just let them be. But then another side of me, man, like people are more anxious and depressed than and
Yeah,
yeah.
I definitely feel a burden to like help people uh to relieve that pain that people have, you know. It's so common now. I mean, that was definitely a common thing with a lot of the younger folks that work for me, uh struggle with, and my kids too, it's not nobody's immune, but there's something about Gen Z that I think some of them are going to figure it out. Like it's tough for somebody my age where I was running around outside my whole childhood, internet didn't come around till, I was in my 20s. So it's tough for me to actually see. I don't see the whole picture because I didn't grow up in it. I'm not marinated in it enough. Um, so I don't know all the inner workings, but I think that some Gen Z are going to figure it out, and I think you're just beginning to see the cusp of it. With I don't know if you saw uh, that girl's name, Freya India or something like that. I don't know. She's a younger girl influencer where she promoted for the first time this year a delete your apps day. And so a bunch of Gen Z they were just deleting their apps on that day. because they're like, yeah, this isn't good for me. And I've had numerous conversations. This is a crazy conversation to have. You should try it. If you're around a bunch of Gen Z, ask them. So when will you guys give cell phones to your kids? And I'm telling you, it's almost unanimous. They're all like, my kids are never getting a cell phone, or not till they're 18 or something. It's like extreme opinion on it. Um, and that's really interesting because that means that they know that it's having a negative effect and that they're willing to do things differently. Uh, like that first time I had that conversation, I was really surprised. Like, oh no, I get flip phones or something. I'm gonna figure something out. Um, and I think that it's really they're gonna have to be the ones to figure it out. Maybe you guys, maybe millennials and Gen Z together, but I'm Gen X, probably not us. Like I'm a pretty rare Gen X in that we had a computer in our house since 1979, which is like it was a really, really old, nasty computer. Uh, but I grew up with computers, and I had my first computer I bought when I was 13, which is pretty unusual for somebody my age. But even that, like, I just don't think so. So I think the goal for people in my generation, when we're talking about this topic, is to encourage the younger ones who see the whole picture, help them map it out, you know. Uh, but I think, there's going to be some Gen Z that never get out. I mean, it's like a maze and never get out of it. But uh, there's something wrong with the way that we have all of our all of our biggest tech companies are devoted to doing things that harm us, and that's bad. That's got to change.
Well,
But
I don't know if it's so much that they're devoted to doing things that harm us, but that
maybe that's a secondary effect.
it's that they're motivated to maximize what they can extract from us, and that power to extract from us is greater than it's ever been before. Um, or their power to extract from us versus the power of our friends and family in the local community to extract from us. That's what has tilted.
Yeah,
Geography and
I like
locality
that.
used to have, like, your local proximity used to have supremacy in our time and attention extraction, which is love extraction basically. It's the capacity to extract what we love.
You
Yeah.
know, on that note, Neil, I'm thinking about I mean, I'm a bit more cynical, but to piggyback off what you're saying, um, if there's one parent who's more likely, let's say there's a married couple and there's a kid who just won't get out of the house and he's just playing video games all day. In general, if you were to picture who's the first parent to be like, this has got to end. In
Usually the
general,
dad.
it's the dad.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so with your caution to not label it as like we are intentionally harming people, it's almost like an Oedipal mother love that these tech companies have for their clients. Like we're making them happy when the designers at Candy Crush are like, hey, we've got our users up 25% on use time. And the way they can rationalize this to think they like our product. They're
Hmm.
happy, right? And so I'm thinking I'm externally processing. I'm thinking out loud here of like that's actually a more a more terrifying prospect than just like rubbing your hands together like now someone is up there doing that. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But in general, it's probably full of a bunch of humans not thinking twice and going like, "Wow, I made a good product. They like our product." Um, yeah.
This um this actually came up somewhat in our estuary this evening. That's why we had to do this a little bit later. Is that something occurred to me, which is that so imagine that. So as a parent, this is what I said, and then I realized what I said after it said like, as a parent, you want to outsource as much of your parenting to other people and the outside world to the extent that it's good. So to the extent that I can outsource my parenting to good influences, good other people, good things, like that's a wonderful thing because they definitely get enough of me. And the reason I said that was because like there was this back and forth in our estuary about like um oh the problem is the parents aren't strict enough and disciplining and da 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 and all that. And that's probably true. But what occurred to me is that like 30, 40 years ago, it was far easier to safely outsource our parenting to like the general outsourcing was the neighbor. Like I was babysat by my next door neighbor and for like 2 hours and they were Indian. And I would, I don't really remember it all that well. And then I was babysat by another neighbor down the street and there was just someone that they knew and they dropped me off and I was there with other kids and it was fine. It was great. Um, and that's not, or I was running around in the neighborhood, and I was like, my parents were outsourcing parenting to other influences that they trusted were good and okay, and so now it's like the helicopter parenting phenomena might be more so that for all these reasons, and this one chief among them, that we just can't automatically trust whatever we're outsourcing to is good. And so if you can't outsource parenting, generally speaking, then you need to have more time and attention and focus on each individual child. Then you can't have 10 children. Because the only reason you can have 10 children is like you're outsourcing time and attention to so that each of the 10 are somewhat parenting and guiding each other or whatever. But if you have to individually craft a curriculum and time and attention for each individual child to make sure that they're protected and you know so I
Yeah, I mean,
understand, but yeah,
as
go
from
ahead.
coming from a big family, I mean, I can tell you that's how it went in our house. I mean, you can imagine what dinner time was like. There's 10 of us every day, every night. It was, I mean, everybody pitched in. Like it's time to do dishes. And
Mayhem of Pizza Place. Yeah.
what's that?
Was it the Mayhem kind of like Pizza Place?
Well, not as much, not as much. But my siblings would be like, I gotta go to the bathroom. My dad would be like, I don't think so. Get back over here. There was always kind of like a little bit of play, but uh, in the family, with the family I grew up in, I mean, it was all hands on deck all the time, And we would do once in a while we'd freeze corn for the family. One year we got 150 dozen ears of corn. It took all day, like cooking the corn and shucking it. I mean, it was crazy. But then we had the best corn ever all year. I mean, that's just kind of stuff you do when you have a big family like that. You know, we'd also do strawberries. We'd freeze strawberries. That was awesome as a kid. I was lucky. I didn't have to do that much because I was just a little kid. All my siblings were older. They did more of the work. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think the TLC is a weird, maybe hybrid of that, where it's a trusted space. You can't really outsource parenting, obviously, TLC, but you can outsource your thinking a little bit, and maybe you're thinking on parenting. Um, uh, but I do think you're right. There's definitely a lack of community, and I didn't even tell my whole church saga, but I went to we ended up going to a non-denominational megachurch for a while. First megachurch I went to though was my Catholic church because we had 1,500 families, so it was big, big parish.
That's a
But
giga
then,
church. It's a billion
yeah,
families.
Wow.
yeah. I mean, it was
No,
big.
the Roman Catholic Church is the only
Right, the
giga
whole
church.
church.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm just being facetious. You go.
yeah. I like it. I like it. But then so we did the mega church thing for a while. Then we planted a church with some friends. Uh, the pastor was a guy that worked for me. Um, and then that church ceased to exist. And then that's where we ended up coming back to the church we go to now for the community aspect, simply for like we knew like four couples that went there. And I mean, it's a friend's church, but I don't really care. I guess I wouldn't say I don't care, but the theology was a little bit secondary for the needs that we had. It took a back seat where we're like, we just need to go somewhere we're going to go. There's going to be friendly faces and we'll go back. And that's kind of where we're at now. Um, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good story from the pizza shop. Here's something that I just recently kind of put all together. This is pretty crazy. But I think I may have told this part of this story, Nick, at Midwestwary, where um, my parents were just faithful Christians. That's how they lived their life. They always just tried to do the right thing, even before they were married. It's just who they were. So my mom in 1947, okay, she worked at a pharmaceutical company in Groton, Connecticut. So like way over there. And she helped set up the first analytical lab they ever had at a little company called Pfizer. Okay. Pfizer's not a little company anymore, but this was 1947.
You're gonna be on Grim Grizz's shit list now. He's
Why
got
is
you.
that? That's all right. That's all right.
I
Uh,
I'm making a joke.
so my mom worked at Pfizer. This is before, some of the drugs that they made that were kind of, but so my dad then, they fast forward to my dad, gets a job at the local company here in town. And he's, you know, works his way up through the company, starts at one of the lowest jobs, works his way up, eventually is the director of manufacturing. And so he oversees the budget for the whole plant. And this is the plant that basically has built part of our town because they would build homes in our town and sell them at low interest rates to their employees so they could live there and work there. Pretty cool. Like it's a cool story. The
Hmm.
and it's in the center of our town is where this factory is, which is very unusual. Like right on the square. Um, so my dad gets this order basically from the VP at one point, and he says, all these guys that work in this tool room down there, the guys that maintain all the machines, we need to let them go because we can do it cheaper outsourcing. And my dad, that's where he started. He started in the tour room. He knew all these guys. He knew they had families. My dad's, you know, really a family kind of guy. And even a guy that lived on our street worked there. So my dad says, well, let me go down and see if we can get them a little more efficient. And then maybe they can keep their jobs. Or he's like, if you don't want to waste your time doing that, go ahead. Like the guy was real dismissive. So my dad did it. He never told them their jobs are on the line, but he told them, we got to get a little more efficient. Let's do this. Let's do that. So fast forward to I open the pizza shop. Literally the first call I get was a guy named Stan who worked in the tool room at the Hoover Company, who would not have worked there had my dad let his job go, like his boss told him. Dan, when he found out it was me, he goes, "Wait, Zepp? Like you're like Phil Zepp?" Like my dad, yeah, you're his son. Oh man! And he's like immediately starts telling everybody. So he spreads the word at the local factory that Phil Zepp, who just retired 2 years before that, his son opened a pizza shop. They all got to try it. So they literally were our best customer for at least a decade. And that's just, you could call that serendipity. You could call it whatever you want to call it, but it's a pretty amazing story. But then,
And he was the very first customer.
very first call, yeah, very first
Wow.
call when I took just randomly I took over on a Tuesday. He called in the morning. They always ordered in the mornings because their lunchtime was at like 11. So he called at like 10 and ordered food. Uh, very first call. And then I realized recently that the guy that I work for now, his dad was a pharmaceutical rep for Pfizer. And that's why they stayed in our town, was because his dad got that job. And so my mom helped me in the future. And so did my dad, just by how they lived their lives. And you could never, I mean, it's Connecticut. I'm in Ohio. How could you? And those are, I just feel like there's got to be millions of stories like that we just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You can't parse it together because you don't know the
Yeah.
connecting pieces. But that thing with the tool room was always really meaningful to me when I figured it out.
It's actually one of my conceptions of heaven. You know how it's actually the gospel for this upcoming Sunday for the Catholic Church is that oh no, it was last Sunday. It was last Sunday. It was not a single hair on your head will be
Hmm.
lost. You know, it's like how can God say not a single hair on my head? I've lost plenty of hair already, you know. But that's the line. It's like not a single hair, and I just imagine like a tour of all the. I mean, it's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
Like a tour of all the connections, all the relationality, all the ways in which um, Chad calls this the cosmological burrito.
Oh, I love that.
It's wrapped up multiple layers
Chad.
that everything
Oh, I
connects
love
to.
Chad.
It's like the provolone that you order or the mozzarella. Wait, I forget which one was it for you.
Provolone. Yeah.
Provolone. Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's like where did that provolone came from? Come from, and then where the cow and the and it goes back and back and back and like the interconnections of everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just feel like I think it was Annie Crawford, among other people who, well, and even somebody in our estuary in Chicago was saying they really wanted to focus on living kind of a sacramental life, or just kind of having that intentionality of, and that's really inspiring for me. I don't know if you can keep that foregrounded all the time. I guess that's a goal I would love to have, is to kind of but you really can't be responsible for the consequences. But if you live with that, if you try to foreground that in your mind, you know, that seems to be a really good way to be, a way of being. But
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it all the references I or the images I have in my mind are like Lord of the Rings images, where over and over again Tolkien's given these snapshots of these tiny little decisions being the thing that in the at the very end leads to victory or salvation. Um, and yeah. I mean, like with the story of your father and with the tool shop, it's like yeah, I mean, we're coming on the season. Like it's a Wonderful Life is really a fantastic. I don't know. It's crazy how the things you take for granted as a kid. Um, and I have a lot. I have the blessing of a lot of these things coming to them later in life. Um, so like I didn't watch It's a Wonderful Life. I don't think until I was like late 20s, mid 20s, and it's like if it's anything, it's not just a cliche film. That film is a like a validation of of a Christian life. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Because you don't it's the opportunity to see um in the present what a lot of people don't get to see, which is and this is my whole thing with Chesterton, right? It's like the thing to compare a thing to isn't Peterson brought this up too, some magical version of it. it's to compare it as if it was not a thing, right? The thing to compare your stressful home life with your spouse and your kids and your work and whatever, the thing to compare that to is if you were all alone and didn't have any of it. That's the thing to compare it to. Because if you compare it to that, like you've been given a gift from on high. You've been given a gift from heaven. Um, and so yeah, yeah. I mean
I mean,
that's
I feel like Peterson kind of reawakened that in me. That's one of the things. Just I feel everybody says enchantment. You know, um, I kind of felt like I had drifted, and that kind of snapped me back to it. You know, and I mean, after Peterson, I mean, I've gotten involved with some stuff in the city, and I probably know everybody, just about everybody on my city council, the mayor. Um, I'm on a economic development board in the city and stuff, and I don't think I would have done that without kind of Peterson,
hmm.
uh, because I remember when the president of city council called me and said, "Hey, would you do this thing?" You know, and I had just watched a video not too long before that of Peterson talking about how, opportunities lead to more opportunities, and you should pick up a heavy weight and carry it, and meaning it, is embedded in the adoption of responsibility. And you're just like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to say yes. And so that's been a good thing. Me and one other guy, we've been on this economic board longer than anybody, because people get elected and it shifts, because some people are elected officials and some are citizens, and I'm one of the handful of citizens that's on the board. And so it's been really interesting because there's a couple things, ideas and stuff that I just kind of sew in there. And there's meetings where it's just us. And so here I am sitting at a table, and it's like the mayor and all the city officials are sitting, and they have to listen to what I have to say, you know. And it's like, what an opportunity to just, and I mean, I have babbled on a few times, but what's interesting is occasionally I babble on about something, and then a year or a year and a half later, something really similar to that happens, and you just don't know. You don't know. I've been floating this weird idea for a long time that maybe we should have some art installations around the city, you know, because the city they want this walking area in the downtown area. And I'm like, well, it'd be nice for people to look at things, if there was some art, different spaces, we could put it here, we could put there. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know anything about art. I know some local artists, and my daughter's pretty artistic. And I just thought, this seems like something we need. We need to beautify the city a little bit. And, and now there's an initiative to do it. Somebody's doing it. And I don't know how that happened. I don't know if I contributed. Probably not, but even just the people hearing it over and over, it just sounds right. Or you just lower the barrier a little bit to an idea. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I think we're definitely being part of the corner, being involved with the corner, participating in whatever way has definitely, I think, awakened something in me that needed to be awakened and revived, reinvigorated, uh, not only some intellectual things for me, philosophical, but spiritual, and it's trickling out into the real world, And I think that's really that's that's how the TLC is a force in the world. And like Paul has said, there's so much that happens that you don't even know about in TLC. Most of it happens outside. even I was talking with Bill and he's telling me, oh yeah, I had a call with Corey and we're gonna have a couple more calls. And you know, I had a conversation at Midwestern with Dr. Jim,
Mhm.
and he posted about it on his Substack.
Yeah.
And then there was a little,
I think I saw you guys out in the lobby that night that he was referencing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that had a lot of legs. Like, so there's a whole saga with that. Like, I ended up having a conversation with Dr. Jim. Just we didn't record it, but I just wanted to talk to him about, I thought there was more to say, and it was crazy because he wrote a series of Substacks. You can read them, and it was about generational things. He's Boomer, I'm Gen X, and it was about the institutions and the lack of trust in institutions. And that's where it started. But then it kind of went more generational. He said things that kind of got me fired up a little bit. But then he would post some more things. We didn't get to talk about it till about a month after Midwestern, and he had already posted like 3 articles on it. And every time he would post an article, I was thinking the exact same thing from my generational point of view. It was it was crazy how we were right on the same track. And it was really fascinating. And then we talked, and it was a great conversation. And I just felt so enriched by talking with him. He spent some time talking to me. I know he's busy, the doctor and stuff. And what a cool thing, And I've
Yeah.
started writing some stuff. I don't really think I'm a writer, but it helps me collect my thoughts and things. So
Yep.
um, I don't know if anything will come of that, but there's so much stuff going on outside the TLC.
Yeah.
We just touch on it now and then. I
Yeah.
love that.
Um, I have two quick thoughts. I'll start with an observation, then a question. The observation has to what you're saying reminds me of uh something Neal has said that lives rent free in my head with his whole um agentic libertarian, like that, not to be focused on what a certain arena should not be or should not be, what constraints there should or shouldn't be in a given arena, but on your own, you as an agent and how you are going to act. We know which is Peterson stuff, but we need a reminder because, and I've been even thinking of this. I've been so caught up in the last few years of looking at systems and what a system should be or should not be, that it has decreased my sense of agency.
Mhm.
Um,
I
like
have some thoughts about that,
like
but go ahead.
no, like as an example or several examples, even like having children, I'm like, I don't know, like there's some good to like knowing the arena and acting within it, but there's you get past a certain point and someone gets into parenting and it's like, I'm never gonna blank, I'm gonna blank. With school, it's like as a parent, I don't know, it's not so good to be such a rigorist on like looking all these stats of public education and then go, I'm never gonna blank. It's like in general, like I probably agree, but if you focus so much on that, you don't realize agentic how much agency you have as a parent to empower your children to be in a certain arena, and you spend all your energy creating this nice little bubble arena. um and so yeah, and so I guess what I'm saying is like you can have two people, two families who take the same actions, two different results. And in fact, let me multiply this. So you have two families who send their kids to um, public school, and you can get two different results because two very different um, what they're paying attention to and how they're raising their children. And in the same way, you can have two sets of parents. And this is not me flattening or relativizing everything, because um, the chances of me sending my young children to local public school is very small. So I'm not saying I don't I don't have sympathies with the more thing I'm critiquing right now, because I do. I'm realizing how focusing on it so much has decreased my agency. And so over here you can have two families who take the same actions of, like, classical, homeschool, whatever, and two very different results, because one family was like just taking one step in front of the other, doing the best they could, and the other one was trying to create this perfect arena, um, where like the perfect result would happen. And so, yeah, I guess I don't know how that brought up, but it's really been on my mind lately, of how there's whatever I'm describing, whatever thought process or ideological thinking maybe that's seeping in. I noticed even in me over the last few years has been, and this can get into church politics, denominations, like it can get into everything, where it just be, and it's sorry, one more example. It's something Rod Dreher's been talking about when he talks about his former Catholic self. He's like, I wasn't, I was so focused on all this arena crap that I wasn't being a good agent. Um, so anyway, John, take it away.
So I'll tell you this. I've done a little business consulting and I've talked to a lot of business owners. And um, so when this seems unrelated, but it is related in this sense. They'll talk about hiring, okay? And they're like, well, um, I'll talk about I just want to hire someone that knows what to do. Like, okay. So in general, if you want to hire someone who just knows what to do, that's gonna you're gonna have to pay them a lot because people who know what to do are in high demand. People who know how to get things done. This would be a way a business owner would say, I just want to hire someone who knows how to get shit done. That's like, okay, well, you have to pay a lot. Well, I can't pay a lot. Okay. If you can't pay a lot, the only way to make sure you get everything done that needs to get done is to create a system. And then the system will get you the results. And the reason you need a system in place of a person with agency is because the system takes the place of the agency. So, like, think about McDonald's, right? I mean, McDonald's is successful because they have a great system and it's foolproof. If you take the shake machine apart, there's a thing you get out to put in part number one, part number two, part number three, and it's oriented in such a way that you couldn't possibly put it back together wrong. You know what I mean? So now, if you were a person who knew how that shake machine was put together, you could probably do it twice as fast, you know, but you got to have the system to get the efficiency out of it. I don't know. That kind of relates to what you're saying in a way, but I think that as a parent, you want to obviously in order to raise a kid that can thrive, agency is way better because if you create a system at home that they can thrive in, well, guess what? When they get out in the real world, the system's going to be different, and there's certainly not going to be a parent there,
That,
you know?
in my opinion, that might be the single greatest responsibility of parents to cultivate agency.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In
I
religion.
think you're right. Yeah.
but that's
Well,
part of it, right, Nick?
you
Yeah,
get
Yeah.
both parts, right? You get
No,
opponent processes, right? You get the agency and the arena in a sense,
yeah.
or you frame the arena.
Yeah, Neal, I wasn't saying that religion's the most important part. I was saying like that should be the role of of a church,
Oh,
of a religion, to increase the agency of their congregants.
wow.
Yeah, it's like yeah, it's like once you, even in John, I'm sure you know this in business, like if someone, well, the guys who bought your shop and then the person who bought the shop after it, they were, this is just spitballing here, they were probably very arena focused.
Yep.
Like you were just going in there and like playing ball, figuring
Yep.
shit out.
Working
And
hard. I
and
mean,
there's something about like just something in the air, in the water, um, to use two very different metaphors, but maybe it drives the point home of how everywhere it is. That's just everything is so arena focused that people just aren't getting in, getting their hands dirty and playing ball. It's like of any society in human history where you are going to have a net to catch you if it doesn't work out, like it's ours. And ours is the most
Hmm.
averse to not doing that. Like it's so ridiculous. Like
Well, I
um
think that's a really good point. How do you think though, how does a church do that?
Well, okay, so this maybe is the secret weapon of the TLC, what we're describing.
Ah.
Because the church has to be motivated to protect and defend itself. It has to be motivated to grow as an entity, as financially protect itself. Have people invested in it to preserve and like it, in that way, it sort of acts as a corporation does. It wants to grow and expand, and
You're talking
and
about the
here
institution of the church kind of thing.
correct. Yeah. I mean, and that's where the are you doing it for individual people or are you doing it for like the institution of the church? And that's always where the rubber hits the road, right? And then within TLC, it's like what institution? And I think this is actually the genius of Paul Vanderklay. He's like,
Yeah.
no, if people want to throw their own conferences, let them throw their conferences.
Yeah, he totally George Washington it, right? Like he would not accept the kingship. He's like, no, no, I'm not
Yeah,
doing
Very
it.
good.
because there's way less of that temptation to care more about improving the arena than simply focusing on individual agents within the arena. Bec- it's almost like the only people that are attracted to this space are just more interested in the agentic than that's somewhat there is a tension there because there's a lot of people interested in the arenic in the space too, but that wasn't the primary driver that made us find each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
there's
that's
almost a spirit of suspicion. People get too glitzy with their channel sometimes, maybe in TLC.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that agent arena, the the return of it, that you brought to the fore, Neil, which really is like the spirit of Peterson that does so influence and govern um certain relationships and conversations that have emerged from that time period, from his rise, from his waves, which is like yeah, it was a very agentic focused thing. And
Yeah, it
yeah,
affected me that way too. And I'm older. I was late 40s by then, but it's just kind of what I needed.
yeah, I was so focused on, I mean, yeah, that framework has done so much just thinking back on my life of like trying to control arenas, and you even see it in the Alcoholics Anonymous literature that Chad has brought to the fore. There's that chapter of that describes the sort of motivational underpinnings of an addict, which is like if I can just get the stage perfect and all the actors doing the perfect thing, like my life will be, everything will be great then. But part of the process of AA is like you have no effing control over that. You What you do have control over is you on the stage of life. But like everything else, that is not going to be orchestrated by you. But so much,
But what you just said, like what clicked for me is that's so much more of an interesting story and an interesting
it's
way of
way better.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
It's the theodrama that I heard that word from Bishop Barron as opposed to the ego drama, and maybe that's a different way of looking at agent and arena is the what we're all coaxed with by madmen by the ad agency. There's another, right. There
Hmm.
is no, again, Grim Grizz's there is no agency is a play on words. It's not actually telling people you don't have any agency.
It took
It's
me a
a
bit to figure that out when I
yeah,
eventually got there.
yeah. because his little song, his little motto is like increases all our agency.
Yep.
So
Well, even the way Chad says, there is no age in C. Like it's a question. Like there's a
Yeah,
couple brandings where it's a question.
yeah,
Yeah.
I noticed that.
yeah, and yeah, and agency. Yeah, is agency what we're talking about, or is it the three-letter agency? Like it's
Right.
anyway. This is classic
It's tricky.
Grim
It's
Gro
tricky.
stuff, but
I like it.
um, but yeah, I mean the whole all of that propaganda that's infused our world is just making us think that we are the center, we are the main character in our own ego drama. But you have to you have to let that thing die. Like you just have to, and it's hard. I mean, letting go of control is. I wish
Mm.
I could do it, like for one full day, for one full hour, maybe. I wish I could do it, but
Yeah,
but
it's
but
interesting.
it's way better.
I had a thought the other day. I was actually talking to the woman I saw at the coffee house about it, where there's times, um I like to tell you it gets easier to parent your kids when you get older. Sometimes it does not. Sometimes it does. But there was a point at which one of my kids shared something with me, and it really, I couldn't understand why it broke me so much. And it was because it shattered my future. Uh, and that was the first thought that I had. Well, this just, you know, if when people make certain decisions, it can be life changing. And as a parent, you see the trajectory sometimes when younger people make a decision. And so for me, it kind of shattered my future. But then I realized, no, it shattered my idolatrous, my idolatrous future that I thought was owed to me. And that was like a pretty hard thing to accept, um, without getting into too many details. But you have a picture of what your long future family will be. It doesn't mean you shouldn't work towards that. It shouldn't Doesn't mean you shouldn't be as agentic towards that end as you can be, but it's not owed to you. And I realized that's why it was all that was inside my head. It was all uh, something I made up, and it was a mercy to me that it got shattered. But it
Well,
was really.
I just have this. I have this looming feeling, and it might be years from now, for all I know. But I also have this feeling that the TLC will be around for a very long time. I don't know why I have that feeling. And the friendships that I made here, I feel like they will be friendships I have for the rest of my life, which is a weird thing to say, but I really do feel that way. And I'm not casual or fickle with such things. It's not in my nature to be. Um, and I think it's because of how deep the roots of the things that we grapple with are in here, and that we do so with care, but also with attention to our words and with love. Yeah. And but I have a sense that, and I'm glad, John, that you have faith in Gen Z and their ability to sift through the wheat from and get the wheat and leave the chaff, so to speak. Um, but I have a sense that we are going to enter a time where people's worldviews are shattered. And I think, not to toot our own
Hmm.
horns, but I just think we've gotten there a little bit earlier than a lot more. And I think most people, when they get there, are going to be very angry and very resentful. But I think for those that are genuinely repentant and genuinely looking for a better way to think about the world, about life, about what's important, I think we need to be there. Um, I don't know what it means for us to be there. Like, I know that's also an in person thing. Um, Chad has this phrase, stand by the door. I don't know what it means really to stand by the door in the virtual space, but I do know brotherhood. I do know fellowship, and I do know friendship. And these are all things that, yeah, that I've found. And, we were talking about this earlier, um, the ability to, oh, you mentioned, I think you said, delete all apps, right, John? That was
Mhm.
yeah, for me, it was just, Twitter and Facebook, and those were the two big ones. Um, and because it was just a sense that, I was a worse person to those around me and those I loved in my life when I was heavily engaged in those. And I have not felt that way about TLC at all. It's been remarkable. Even in the really tough, conversations and times of TLC, when things get really heated, I still haven't felt that way. There've been conversations where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a step back because this is not a constructive one, let's say. Um, but not in the overall spirit, and certainly not in the friendships I've cultivated. So yeah.
I feel something similar. Like I don't feel dread, like kind of a or concern. I feel like I'm supposed to be ready for something.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I feel I need to read some more books. Like I need to understand this more, and I need to have this fleshed out. I don't know if I don't know where that's coming from, but I feel a real need for that. Like I gotta get
It's
ready.
Yeah, it's not even dread for me either. It's more of a
No,
sense of mission. Like, this
yeah,
is why we're here.
it's similar
Like,
then, more
yeah.
similar to what I'm saying. TLC helps me feel ready. It helps me. I mean, it fills in the gaps. It's like, and it also is great to meet like-minded people. People just kind of functioning in the same way, inhabiting the same mindset, kind of a thing. I guess if TLC is uh, a get ready space, uh, that's super valuable for no matter what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I've not been able to square fully my sense after Midwestuary that came from nowhere. Like you have a sense and you're just like sometimes you're like, God, yeah, that could be me, that could be real, but I'm not sure. The tangible sense I had after Midwestuary that like this is a thing, is not something I'm able to make sense of because it didn't come from like if I went to some random hobby conference and went home and it was just like, oh, this is definitely a thing. Like it wasn't that. It was just, but I don't know what it is.
I've never been to a conference where I said, I wish that happened more.
Yeah.
I'd go to one of those all the time.
Yeah.
It felt like church in a different way.
Hmm.
It felt like the missing piece that I have never felt as well at church. And I mean, I've touched on it where like when I would go to the camps, I don't know if you've ever worked at a camp or young life camps where I'm in the room with all the leaders, and we'll just sing some songs or say some prayers or just talk. And like, you're in a space where everybody is aligned. Uh, and there's some power to that. One time I felt it too when I went to a conference, a church conference at North Point Church. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a big church in Atlanta, Andy Stanley's church. And they had a big conference there, probably like 17,000 people in this arena, all church leaders. And when we sang songs, everybody sang.
Mm.
Like everybody sang their heart out in this arena. And that experience that stuck with me. I mean, that was like 2006 or something, 2007. It stuck with me, man. Like
Mm.
all those people in the same place in alignment. There's something that it felt unreal. I got that taste of that, felt that same flavor in the Westray.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't
I
know what to
think
make of it either.
yeah, I think we should wrap this up. It's getting late my
Yep.
time, but no, let's stay in touch. And it was great,
Yeah.
absolutely great getting to know you better, John. And thanks for sharing your story. And hopefully, we'll get the agents. Remember, Embody, we have no agents. We'll get the agents of the corner to get a good understanding of your story and your background. So, is
Yeah.
there anything? Yeah. Before we go though, is there anything that you want to pitch or ask anyone in the corner? Or you've got an estuary and you're part of Ohio, right?
Yeah, Northeast Ohio. If anybody's around, I'm on Discord, a bunch of Discord channels, Bridges Meeting and Midwest Way and Southeast Way channels. If you're on there and you're interested at all, it'd be awesome to have you. That'd probably be the only thing I would pitch.
Okay. Yeah, this was great. I thought it was a great conversation, John. I loved your story and um yeah. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I had a great time.
Yeah, great talking to you guys. I appreciate it.
We'll do it again. If you get anything on your mind, feel free to email me, reach out.
Yeah. Now that I
All
know you're going through Everlasting Man, I'm pulling on you.
right.
Here in the winter. I've got gaps
We're
to fill. You're
all
filling.
right. Yeah. We're about halfway through right now, so probably we'll make it to the end soon.
Good.
Nice.
Good stuff.
Hang on, Jens. I'm going to stop recording.